Discretion is advised.
New here at 5, caught on video, Palos Park Police releasing surveillance video of an armed robbery at a Subway sandwich shop. This happened this morning at the corner of College and Southwest Highway. The man points a gun at an employee demanding the money. He then drove off in a black 4-door vehicle.
Breaking news, nigga. Some breaking news.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
You niggas are crazy! That's racist! Nigga, please.
The local police officer is accused of pulling down his pants and exposing himself to a woman.
Captain Michael Lynch is now on leave while the SBI investigates. Eyewitness News reporter Ken Lemon is live outside the Dallas Police Department with more on the allegations.
Yeah, Lynch had this criminal summons delivered to him. It means that he doesn't have to show up here. This is the Gaston County Jail. To get mugshot, to get processed here because it is a misdemeanor charge, but it could be enough to remove him from the force.
In reference to the warrant service.
Captain Michael Lynch was second in command at the Dallas Police Department. Now his career in law enforcement is in jeopardy after an incident in October at this medical facility on South New Hope Road, just outside of the Gastonia city limits. According to a criminal summons, a woman told police Lynch pulled down his jogging pants, exposing himself to her. Gaston County police were called once they realized the accusations were against an officer who used to work for them. They asked the SBI to investigate.
And check other areas to see.
Dallas police put Lynch on paid administrative leave in late November during that investigation. The SBI gave a report to the Gaston County District Attorney. He decided to charge Lynch with misdemeanor indecent exposure. And the DA says the SBI is still working on a detailed report. The chief of the Dallas Police Department says the outcome of that report will decide if Lynch remains on paid leave. Live in Gastonia, I'm Ken Lemon, Channel 9. Eyewitness
Will spend the next 48 years in prison for the 2014 shooting death of a King University basketball player.
We were in the courtroom today for Jamarcus Jackson's sentencing hearing. But first, let's take a look back at the night of the crime. That shooting happened in March of 2014 outside the Battery. That's a nightclub that is no longer in business in Johnson City. Facts of the case reveal Jackson was at the club celebrating a birthday when he got into a fight with victim Deshaun Greer. The club kicked everyone out, and more than 100 people were in the parking lot. Jackson was convicted of going to his car, grabbing a gun, then coming back and fatally shooting Greer 3 times. 3 other people also suffered injuries from the gunfire.
A jury found Jackson guilty of second-degree murder. That was back in November. And News 5's Christy O'Connor was in the courtroom for his sentencing today. So, Christy, what played a role in today's decision?
It was Jackson. Julie PJ, it was Jackson's violent criminal past that was brought up again and again. Prosecutors tell me that Jackson's prior convictions didn't keep him in prison, and if they had, Greer might still be alive today. It's been nearly 3 years since 26-year-old Jamarcus Jackson opened fire on 24-year-old Deshaun Greer outside of a Johnson City nightclub. The King University basketball player's life cut short, and his family says it hasn't gotten any easier.
Days away from graduation. You know, his life was really just about to begin.
It's going to ruin everyone.
It's something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy.
After Jackson was convicted of second-degree murder in November, Greer's family has been praying for a maximum sentence. The judge weighed a number of factors, including how many other people were in danger that night, since more than 100 others were in the parking lot when Jackson pulled the trigger.
The victim here, Deshaun Greer, was shot 3 times, but there were bullets flying everywhere. Risk of human life in general, more than just the victim, Mr. Greer, was very evident.
While the court considered a 25 to 40-year sentence, it was Jackson's criminal history that weighed heavily on the decision. He has 6 prior convictions, and the prosecution made clear probation did not keep him from committing this crime.
A blood-soaked failure. The only way that the state would argue that can be alleviated and prevented is to keep him locked up for as long as legally possible.
The judge agreed and sentenced him to 40 years, plus another 8 years for violating his probation. He won't get out early this time.
I'm just ready for it to be done, and it is, finally.
But the case may not be over for long. Defense attorney Gene Scott says he plans to file a motion for a new trial.
Evidence seemed to suggest that the victim rushed toward my client prior to him my client shooting him, which would certainly ponderate in a finding of self-defense as opposed to murder.
Jackson is due back in court on May 19th for a status hearing on the motion for a new trial. PJ?
Thank you,
He's been
Christy.
sentenced to life in prison for shooting and killing a salon owner some 2 years ago. A jury found Kenny Ruff guilty on murder. Back in August of 2015, he entered Leslie's hair salon to rob the place and killed 41-year-old Roberto Facio with a shot to the back of the head as the owner was on his knees.
Good evening. For the first time in San Antonio, an Uber driver is facing charges of violence, raping a young woman he drove home.
The suspect is no longer driving for Uber. Eyewitness News reporter Marianne Martinez is live with the potential impact this could have for ride-sharing companies in the Alamo City. Marianne?
Well, Sarah, Uber and the city of San Antonio have faced off over background checks before. Uber stopped operating in San Antonio for several months because of that in 2015. Now, the driver accused of rape in this case did not have a previous criminal record, so any kind of background check would not have kept him from driving for Uber. But his arrest is likely to reawaken calls for more oversight from the city for Uber and other rideshare companies.
An Uber ride that was supposed to get a 22-year-old San Antonio woman home safely ends in her rape.
You'd like to think that when you get into an Uber that you're entering a safe place.
Hattie Piskey was not involved, but she's one of many San Antonio women shuddering at the thought. An arrest report by San Antonio police says it happened in October. The woman was at an unknown bar. The report says she was so drunk she passed out in the bathroom. Bar staff helped her outside, where an Uber was waiting. The Uber driver, a man police identify as Gabriel Vasquez, helped the woman inside her apartment since she needed help walking. The report says he, quote, escorted her to her bed and then began to undress her. And then he raped her.
It makes it feel like you're not safe.
The 22-year-old alerted police and Uber the next day. Uber says the trip Vasquez gave the 22-year-old woman was his last ride, and he no longer drives for Uber. Vasquez did not have any previous complaints with Uber before that.
We have taxis, so do we really need Uber all the time?
Uber puts all its drivers through a background check. Anyone with a felony is not allowed to drive. Vasquez does not have a criminal record, so he would not have been excluded from driving. But Uber users are already asking why the rideshare company doesn't go for the stricter fingerprint background checks the city asked for Uber in 2015.
After leaving San Antonio in April 2015, Uber and Lyft returned in October of that same year. The city let them return and made the fingerprint background check optional. Now, the mayor, as well as many other city council members, are up for re-election in a few months, and this is likely to become a campaign issue. Marianne Martinez, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.